You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there, ladies and gentlemen, that makes it official. Wow, that's a real wake-up call to hear her voice in the morning. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing young lady. We're going to be guesting on the show, talking about some of her wares and how she can help you improve your life. She might make you improve your life, but she seems nice, so I don't think she's going to make you do anything, but she's going to give you some good suggestions. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just rambling. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. She is the author of the latest book. There's a couple of them we're going to be talking about today. This one is called Metaphysical Anatomy. Your Body is Talking. Are You Listening? Out January 31st, 2013. Evette Rose is with us, joining on the show. We're going to be talking about her book, some of the things that she does, and everything else. She's an author of 21 books, a speaker, a holistic counselor. She has worked with over 7,000 clients, uncovering one undeniable truth: unresolved emotions profoundly impact our health, mental well-being, and physical pain. Welcome to the show, Evette. How are you?
Chris, I am amazing, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. I really look forward to today's topic.
Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs in the sky?
Great question. So metaphysicalanatomy.com. You can find me on Instagram, Dr. Evette Rose Official as well, and YouTube as well. Don't forget YouTube. I know the URL is normally really super long, so I made it super easy for you. It's evettevideos.com, and you will find a wealth of free, great content there for you.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your book, Metaphysical Anatomy?
That is such a great question. So, Chris, as I was traveling the world teaching, so this is the book that we're talking about. So it's quite a big book, as you can see. It's about 722 medical elements and the psychosomatic stress of that. And so what prompted me to start this book, and believe it or not, if I had to tell you, I never actually would have in my life thought I would become an author. I wanted to become a crime scene investigator and a lawyer, right? So now I ended up, right? The shift, right? So now I ended up becoming still a crime scene investigator, but a crime scene investigator in the sense of I'm looking at the trauma and the mess that emotions leave behind on the actual body. We think that emotions just impact our mental health, such as depression or anxiety. But we all have experienced moments where, and I'm sure you have as well, where you heard that bad news and suddenly you felt sick to your stomach, or suddenly you felt your legs were so wobbly you had to sit down, or you start to have a headache because you're so frustrated at work, things are just not working, or maybe you have a lot of pressure on you and suddenly your back starts to ache and you didn't injure your back. There's nothing to actually indicate to you why necessarily there should be pain, or why could it be that we have irritable bowel syndrome? Because this is in the medical literature not necessarily recorded as an ailment, but rather as a psychosomatic ailment. But it's an ailment. You feel the changes in your gut. There's pain, there's cramps. Sometimes it's constipated. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's a very physical experience.
Yeah.
But it's
Taco Bell buffet night for me.
Sorry?
That's Taco Bell buffet night for me. When I'm having
irritable
bowel syndrome. Yeah.
So when we look at this, even stomach ulcers, it's psychosomatic. And this is all relating to emotions. But the point is that whatever the emotional stress is, it's so strong, Chris, that it causes an actual rupture in the stomach that can cause bleeding.
Oh, really?
Because of emotions, right? And so this fascinated me. Why is it that we have such strong emotions that can cause these physical responses? And how do we address them? So, of course, normally you would sit there and you'd think, okay, well, we need to address the very thing that caused it, right? But how do we backtrack something that's caused by emotions? Where do we even begin? So this triggered incredible, powerful questions and quite complicated answers that I didn't have myself. And when I started to do my work and I started to work with people, of course, I improved my own quality of life. We don't get into personal development because our life is great. There's something that's not working for us. And it was exactly the same for me. My habits, my patterns, I was drinking, I was smoking, I was literally walking the footsteps of my father in my early 20s. How we cope, how we sometimes copy a parent's coping strategies because that's the only best reference that we know as being our default when times get so rough that you're on your knees. Where do we go? We normally go to our default, and not consciously. It's normally a subconscious response that we have. And my life got to a point where I just needed to make a 360-degree turn. Being an atheist, I was raised Christian. And my father, as being the drunk with the Bible under his arm, you can only imagine my association with religion and with God was quite toxic. So I went the opposite. I became an atheist. And so on the day it came where my emotions and the stress and back pain and neck pain and constant nausea, irritable bowel syndrome, everything and the way that I was coping with my life was so toxic that it just got to the point where you don't have the answers anymore. I don't know if you've been there, but it's when you don't have the answers anymore, what do you do? Where do you go? And I actually, trigger warning here, I actually wanted to end my life. And I got up in the morning, I handed over all my projects on my manager's voicemail, 5:00 in the morning, because I wasn't going to go back. And all the projects that I was working on, and sat in front of the computer with a cigarette in my mouth. I was 23 with a shot of vodka, and I'm trying to Google how to end it. And then something just sparked on me, and it just said, you know what? What if you're asking the wrong question? What if you've just been asking the wrong question all this time? And I thought, Chris, there's people around you that you've seen that's really happy, right? There's people that just seem really happy. There's something that they're doing that we might not necessarily be aware of what they're doing. Why is it that they're so happy? Why is it that things really truly are working out for them? And I asked the question, how to be happy? How can I be that person? So what happened was, on my screen came up crystals, Doreen Virtue, angels, Neil Donald Walsh, and I sat there, I'm thinking, God's pulling a prank on me. I'm like, this is not funny. Being a full-blown atheist at that point, and I'm seeing everything that I don't believe, and you want to tell me this is going to be my answer?
There you go.
And so I thought, okay, well, we can start with Neil Donald Walsh. I think I can digest that, Conversations with God. And this is the path that I walked on. And Chris, I swung my life around. I thought, if I can be so determined in my career and become so highly successful, which I was at that age, I need to channel that same determination in getting better. I was channeling all this discipline and determination in the wrong channels. It needed to come back to me. And I did. And 3 months later, long story short, 3 months later, I quit my corporate job. I quit my job because the changes in me was so incredible. It was so powerful that I couldn't look at myself and at life and at pain the same way again, and emotional pain as well. And I vowed that I would never go back. And I loved the changes that I was able to create for myself in exactly what I did. I taught other people how to do that. What worked for me? Let's see if this also works for you. It worked so well. And I put a few videos on YouTube, and this is way back in 2008. Like, this is eons ago. And the videos went viral. It went viral. And I ended up being booked out worldwide for a year and a half, traveled the world. And that's how this book, right? Isn't this wild? That's how this book became an actual reality. I never wanted to become an author. I just started to document someone living in Canada who might have, wrist pain on the left-hand side, and someone in Australia with wrist pain on the left-hand side, regardless of your past, regardless of your diet, your cultural values, or your beliefs, they share the same trauma triggers.
Wow.
And I thought, Mike, they shared the same beliefs and ways of coping with life and coping with the trauma that they went through. And I thought, how is that possible? So I continued to document this, thinking, okay, maybe it's a coincidence. And I continued to document it. And the more ailments I started to work with when people had ailments, and just practically helping them to deal with it, how to manage it, and started to notice the different patterns. And then I said, okay, well, so this is the issue that you have with this ailment. Why don't we address it? Why don't we start resolving it? And Chris, when we started doing that, it started to improve the symptoms of a lot of the ailments, not all, but most of them.
Wow.
And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And now I'm sitting and I'm thinking, is it possible that emotions can feed and exacerbate pain and ailments? Isn't that possible? And so the more I started to write, people said, Evette, you've got to publish this as a book. This is a manual. This is a resource for us working with people. So body workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, hospitals, universities, all using this book now. And so I did end up publishing the book. It just went viral all by itself. It just did its own thing. I never marketed this book. Yeah, I never marketed it. It just did its thing. And now that book, I was self-published and it's sold in more than 80 countries. And I'm just like, there must be truth in this. Why is it that so many people are resonating with this? There has to be something that I'm hitting the nail on the head with each element. And every time when people gave me feedback, I learned and understood that it's because of the trauma triggers, number one, that people resonated with. And if they addressed it, they found improvements in their life.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, this is amazing. So this is not just my story. You're experiencing it as well. So this is how my career started. It wasn't planned. It was not an actual intended goal. I just followed the sparks and I just followed where the biggest questions kept popping up. Because I'm a very curious person and I'm extremely solution orientated now. And it's hard to see a problem when you're solution orientated, right? You just keep following the trail and you keep looking for potential answers. And so as I progressed throughout my journey, I wrote, 20 other books, and every book was about my life and my emotions and my mindset and how I moved out of that, and also how I help my students out of it, whether it's happiness, divorce, heartbreak, grief, bereavement, anxiety, depression, you name it. There's a book about it, financial stress. And my latest book that really hit the nail quite hard for me is now this one that I published called Solving Pain Without Pills When the Answer is Not in a Bottle. So now, as I work with all these thousands of people, and now you have the backstory of how I got to this book, how I got to this concept. When you start to work with so many people, it's how can you ignore the similarities that you start to see in people? And when you do certain things, you start to get similar results. There has to be something powerful in that. And so when we look at normal pain, like just general pain, maybe as a result of an injury, when we look at the pain modulation model, that's obvious, right? You bumped your toe, now you have pain. But that model fails us completely when we start to look at, okay, now I'm working and suddenly my lower back starts to hurt, even though my posture is good. Or I suddenly have a headache, but my eyes don't feel strained. I was having a really relatively okay day. I had a bit of stress here and there, but now I have a headache. There's no direct cause of the headache. So what do we do with this type of pain, which is called psychosomatic pain? This is when I realize how stress, fear, anxiety, and certain specific emotions has an incredibly powerful impact on how we experience pain. Because let's be honest, when we experience pain, we automatically think that there's something's wrong, right? That there's a problem. And so our interpretation of pain is now negative. Because, it causes discomfort. No one likes to be in pain, right? The first thing that we do when we're in pain is, where's a pill? Or, what can I do to avoid it? It's not fun to have that. And even just this a small unconscious unintended approach, negative approach that we have towards pain, like that attitude towards it, it can cause the experience of it to actually feel exacerbated, and it can escalate. And research have shown this. Because pain is not just an annoying sensation in the body. It's actually our body's alarm system. Because the body has cells that's called nociceptors. And they act as these tiny little antennas. And they're designed to be super hypersensitive. And it's actually their job to detect, say, harmful stimuli. And then they respond accordingly by sending an alarm. So when these little receptors and detect now this harmful stimuli, they actually act as little messengers that's almost like dispatching signals to our spinal cord. And it's actually the spinal cord that functions like this. It's like an operating board, right? Determining whether the received message is now going to be significant enough to be passed along to the brain as an actual threat. So if the spinal cord decides that the message is important, the brain will receive it and then begin interpreting the situation and questioning now, well, what is happening? So whether it is dangerous and whether there is an action actually needed for it. Because the brain also integrates this information with the subconscious memories, with the subconscious emotions, and the preconceived ideas that we have about what pain is and what should be done. You see, so even on top of that, so what's happening here is that pain is not just an experience according to the pain modulation. Pain is an emotional experience. It's a cognitive experience. It's a physical experience. It's a mind-body experience because the spinal cord communicates with the brain, right? So, and the brain also brings with it its own interpretation, its own judgment even of that pain. Now, it's hard to stay in positive mindset when you are in pain, right? I mean, I'm sure you can relate. It's a nasty experience. And especially for people who have chronic pain, it taints and colors your world a different color. Now, what happens is when we look at pain and how it can become actually a learned behavior, and what I learned working with people, sometimes even just thinking of an old memory where they had experienced pain, for example, walking up the steps, oh, that hurt my lower back. But now their lower back doesn't hurt anymore. But just thinking of I'm going to have back pain again when I walk up the steps can actually trigger the memory of pain, and it can send the signals, and the person can actually experience back pain again by just walking up the steps. This is the power of how pain can also become a learned behavior, because the exact same alarm process, that I just described, it also applies to the memory of pain, which is why it's called learned behavior. So what does this mean? Right? So pain arises purely from memory. And so much research has been done to prove that. It's not necessarily like a form of an actual injury or a physical condition in that moment. Our minds can actually often create pain all by itself. So now on top of that, when we experience stress, our body releases hormones and chemicals, and researchers actually believe that these hormones can actually cause the psychosomatic symptoms. So you see the body's, right? So the body's ability to naturally regulate itself after a stressful event has also greatly deteriorated. Chris, how many times have you had a stressful day, you had a big blow up with someone, or you got caught up in traffic and you're so angry and you're just sitting in that anger and you just can't really let go of it. You can't fully regulate yourself from it. We've all been there, right? We've all been there. So what happens is when this pain becomes stuck and it continues to linger, this is where the body freezes. The body now needs to do something with this cortisol. It needs to do something with this stress. And this is also what exacerbates pain. Sometimes we can have pain that's low level, and then suddenly when we feel this anger, when we feel this stress, it can actually heighten that low level pain that we're feeling at that time as well.
Wow.
So when I ask you, for example, when was the last time that you took a deep breath, stopped, and checked in with your body to see what it really truly needs, or what was it trying to tell you? Because you see, our frontal cortex often overrides our common logic because we're constantly in pursuit of something, whether it's romance, money, freedom. There's always something that we're chasing, right? So most of our problems actually stem from living a life that is at an incredible, tremendous speed, which is why slowing down is so necessary. But that's also why when we slow down, we feel pain the most. That's why we don't like slowing down. We don't like being still.
That would explain a few things.
It does, doesn't it? So,
yeah.
And not just pain, anxiety, stress, all trauma that we don't want to feel. We've set up our lives to work around what we don't want to feel. These little coping strategies, these crutches, the wine, the beer, the cigarettes, the overdoing exercise, or excessively working, or becoming a workaholic. You see, so what happens is when we move too fast through life, we risk getting stuck in this autopilot mode, becoming disconnected from ourselves and losing our sense of grounding. And these are also very vulnerable moments where we're more prone to accidents, right? So it's really important to remember that when we live a life at high speed, we're often driven by subconscious forces that's actually seeking stability in the wrong places. You see, so if we're constantly chasing emotional fulfillment at this high speed, we feel toward that, it's almost like how we feel towards that fulfillment will also continuously fluctuate. And that is due to the interplay of our hormones, belief systems, and environmental influences, all which affect constantly, what and how we pursue things and how we achieve our goals. And it's because of this heightened lifestyle that the disconnect that we feel with the body plays a very big role. Chris, have you ever gone home after a high-paced, incredible life? You sit down and then suddenly a headache hits. But you're actually now in the comfort of your home and you're relaxing. Or suddenly you become aware of that neck pain or that back pain and you're like, but nothing is stressing me right now. What is this? That is when the noise has calmed down, because the brain prioritizes what you perceive as being a threat or what is stressing you. And if it's work, it's not going to prioritize pain. It actually does not prioritize pain. So it's normally in these quiet and still moments where pain can actually become worse. And it can also become worse when we experience heightened emotions. It can vary for different people. And it's in these moments that our attitude and what we're going to do with that pain is going to make or break that experience. Is it going to be destructive or is it going to be constructive? Because at the end of the day, the body wants to be heard. It doesn't want to be suppressed. It is your body's sole purpose to keep you alive and to help you to live its best life. It has no business in wanting to be in pain or to have an ailment. This are just purely expressions of the body saying, I'm out of balance. Help me to get back into balance. Because when we experience this, we always think, what do we think? Oh my God, what is wrong? What is wrong? Now what? Okay, so now we go into it from a judgmental, attacking perspective. That's a very negative way. That's a negative foundation that we're building now to create healing. That to me doesn't feel like it's an alignment of what the body really truly needs so that it can heal. The body will not heal if it feels unsafe. And if your attitude toward that pain is going to be hostile, it's only going to exacerbate feelings of feeling unsafe, right? It's a self-perpetuating cycle. The nervous system will not regulate if it doesn't feel safe. So how do you give yourself that place of safety instead of someone else giving it forward to you? And that is to have self-compassion. Have that self-love. And I'm not talking about this in a floral, angelic hippie way or anything like that. It's just really truly having a rock solid, confident relationship. I was teaching in Australia, in Sydney, and I had a student who didn't really believe in working on yourself and addressing emotions that can improve pain. And he had this chronic lower back pain for 13 years. And so as I was about to do a live demonstration in front of the class to demonstrate how we can work with emotions to help to, at least support and modulate pain a bit more, if not resolve it, if it's psychosomatic. What happened, and it's funny because he raised his hand and he said, I would like to give it a go. And I said, why just give it a go? Are you ready to address this? Like, I don't want this half nonsense approaches. And he said, you know what, to be honest with you, I'm here because a really good friend of mine said that this might help me and I don't believe in it. And I'm here to prove that this is bullshit. And now I'm sitting there, I'm like, come up here. Let's go. Let's sit here and let's figure this out. Because the good news is it helps if you yourself believe that you can get better. But it also helps if you can have a compassionate witness who can believe in you. It really depends where a person is in their life and to support them through that process. And what ended up really interesting was that his lower back pain was so severe that he couldn't work. He had to work from home and couldn't go to the gym, couldn't do normal basic things. So it was quite in bad shape. And it happened that the more we discovered what was happening in his lower back, because there was no injury, nothing, absolutely no reason why he should have lower back pain. It just one day his back went out. He just bent forward and then that was it. And so when we backtracked, it was the emotional stress that he was going through at the time of becoming a father, of wanting so desperately to be like his father and not wanting to fail in his father's eyes. And going through financial stress, going through the startup of a new business. And he practically emotionally collapsed under that stress, but trying to hold it all together.
Wow.
And that stress showed up in his lower back. And so we worked on it, we released it. And the pain went from, being almost 10 out of 10 down to 1 out of 10.
Wow.
I thought, okay, this is a good place to leave it. Let's leave it there. And I never heard from him again. And you know what? 3 months later, I was back teaching in Sydney. And a student walked into the classroom with such a big bouquet of flowers, I couldn't see the person's face. And then he put the flowers down and I saw it was this person that I worked with 3 months ago. And when the class wrapped up and I went and I said, hello, how you doing? He's like, this changed my life. I don't have lower back pain anymore. And I sat there and I thought, isn't that amazing? I had no idea. I never heard from him, no feedback. But this is one of many examples of the possibility that what if emotions could be playing a role in the pain that we are experiencing. One last example. I'm going to use myself as an example. I experienced grief and stress to the point where I had such a terrible pain and ache in my heart that I literally felt like I ruptured a muscle or something in my heart. Wow. I even went to the doctors and they couldn't find anything and they just said, oh, it's stress. And then a significant relationship collapsed and I had the passing of, a beloved pet that meant everything to me. And if you're not a dog lover, you will not understand maybe that loss of a pet, but that's okay. And Chris, it was that pain translated and transformed into a stress-related heart attack. I had a stress-induced heart attack.
Really? Wow.
Not because I had a heart problem. I couldn't keep it together with stress anymore. And so this is how the relationship with pain, but also emotional stress affected an organ in my body, a vital organ, I might add.
Yeah.
And it nearly ended my life. The power of emotions is incredible. And let me tell you, I was just about to turn 30 when that happened. A 30-year-old having a stress-induced heart attack, right? So I have tremendous respect for emotions because working with so many people, I've seen what it can do to the body and I've seen what it can do to the mind as well.
Yeah.
And if we can just give the body the time of day that we give our goals, our dreams, just that same amount of energy, we can really start to live a physical and emotional and external balanced and healthy life.
There you
because I didn't have that heart attack because my body just felt like malfunctioning. The doctor came into my office and I was debriefed and discharged that same day. Can you believe it? I was discharged that same day.
Yeah.
And he threw that box of pills on my bed and he said, you don't have a goddamn heart problem. You have a stress problem. And then he walked out. That was it. And you know what he gave me?
What?
Valium. Chill the hell out, Evette. Chill the hell out. And so I thank God my mom was visiting me at the time when that happened. And so I was discharged. and to live with that fear of it happening again, the weakness that you feel, the breathlessness that you're constantly going through. And I really had to, mentally build my way back up again. And I really walked away from that experience with incredible respect for emotions and the fact that they deserve to be respected. They're not there to ruin your life. They're there to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. It's to follow. It's like the GPS of your soul, right? It tells you what you love, what you don't love, what works, what doesn't work. But how well do we listen to these emotions? How accurate is our capacity to decode what they're trying to communicate? Because if we don't understand what these emotions are communicating, it's going to translate in different shapes and forms. Right?
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why I wrote this book, Solving Pain Without Pills, because now we have psychosomatic pain and we pop a pill, but the answer is not in a tablet. The answer is in your relationship with yourself, in your relationships with your emotions.
The body knows the scores, I think some people describe it. Let's get into some of the offerings you have on your website. So we've covered the 2 books.
Absolutely.
We've covered the Metaphysical Anatomy, Your Body is Talking, Are You Listening? We covered Solving Pain Without Pills, When the Answer is Not in a Bottle, out June 10th, 2025. Let's get into some of the offerings and things that you do for people on your website. Tell us some of the things out there.
Yeah, so let's do that. So firstly, I have every Wednesday free masterclasses, absolutely free. There's a ton of wealth of information that we go through. I call it fast track masterclasses because I understand that we're all busy. So it's normally half an hour to 45 minutes maximum, where we choose a topic of the day, of the week, or the month, what's going on. And we work through it, we dissect it, we decode it, and we go through a healing meditation to start to process it. So you always walk away with an understanding and with tools as well. For me, that's the best way to support people who really, truly want to heal, but they don't always necessarily have the time. We have our matmembers.com site, which is a free healing membership site. There's a lot of healing meditations, videos where I ask a ton of questions, so you can dive in there as well. And we also have, regular events coming up, so you can have a look on the website under events and see, trauma release events, learning to understand and decode messages in the body as well. And something that people deeply love is another site is called guidedhealingsession.com. When you go there, there's a free guided healing session video. So whether you're going through pain, grief, distress, whatever your challenge is, you can go through that video. I'm going to ask you really specific questions, and then we're going to start to work through the trauma or the stress, whatever it is that you're feeling, whether it's you feel it in your mind or in your body, whether it's pain, addiction, it doesn't matter. Go through that video, because that will already help you to start to dislodge and decode and release stress that's stuck in the body. So people normally, they tend to love that. So I do invite you to have a look. And this is all free content, absolutely free.
Well, it's great that you offer that. And I show also that you have some events coming up, sessions,
Absolutely.
and things like that. How can people book sessions with you and all that stuff?
Great question. So everything, when you go to metaphysicalanatomy.com, it is under sessions. And so there's different types of sessions, so you can actually choose which one feels best for you, and we can tackle it and rock and roll.
So anything more we need to cover before we go out?
Chris, I think we nailed it to the ground for this specific topic.
We got it. We got it nailed to the ground. It's good to nail it down. So it's been fun to have you on the show. Give us your final pitch out. Tell people where they can reach out to you, find out more, and order your books.
Absolutely. So you can go to evettebooks.com. All my books are there, and you can reach out to us on email or directly from the website. Email is info@metaphysicalanatomy.com, or just simply go to metaphysicalanatomy.com and contact us button, and we'll respond.
Thank you very much, Evette. It's been wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks, audience, for tuning in. Order per books wherever fine books are sold. Metaphysical Anatomy. Your body is talking. Are you listening? Hello? Are you there? That's what my body usually says to me. He goes, hello? Hello, are you listening? We just ate Taco Bell, and now we've got to get to some place where we can sit down. Order the book or find books sold, folks. Be sure to go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should